Good afternoon, good evening. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. We're going to go take a look at some charts here. This is going to be called the Under the Radar. So thank you guys for participating, sending me a good weekly name that I can use so that I don't put people to sleep with the names that I come up with. So we'll call it Under the Radar. Appreciate you guys. So first things first, we're not going to dive into the broad market today. We're actually going to go over members charts as we do every Tuesday or most Tuesdays. But I do want to kind of look at the SPY just for a brief second here. It is still in an uptrend. It is still bullish. I know today was some profit taking. It is to remain seen whether or not this pullback in here today to the 20 period moving average, this little pullback we had today, is it a test of further downside prices, or did it just run a test and now we're rallying back up here and we're going to be making all-time highs? I don't quite know the answer to that just yet, but we will take a look at it over the next couple days. I thought something was a little bit interesting. We did see that the tech sector was down a lot more compared to the other markets. We looked at the transports, the financials were up today. So I wouldn't say that the market is selling off. I think there's a lot more pressure in these heavier names that we know, that we love, Apples and Amazons and Facebooks. And I think that was a big part of it. So we'll keep an eye on this over the next couple of days, see how this develops. We can definitely find support in here, but you do see as we broke down out of this bull flag, that what was a bull flag, we broke down out of that, which is why you saw a sharp movement down to the downside. And after this kind of consolidation here, that's something that we would expect. And I did close those puts. For those of you guys who are in the Discord, if you did see notice, I closed the puts on QQQ, IWM, and there was one other one. Oh, NIO. I closed the puts on NIO. So for those of you guys who want to be a part of the Discord, the link is in the description of the video. Okay, right to the members charts. First one to look at is ABCL. And I glanced at this one briefly right before I started recording this video. So this is the thing with the members watch list is I like it when you guys send me these companies, because we can take a look at them. I might not even know this, or I don't see all of these names. And so for those of you guys who are part of this team who can go ahead and send me the name, I do like this setup. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the most bullish chart that we have seen, because we could have taken any one of these bounces out of here. And the way that I like to play bounce plays is I like to bring it off the high up here, or even the opening print. Bring it off the high, bring it down. You could almost say that this already broke out here. The reason why I don't think it has is because it wasn't convincing enough. You see the movement out of here wasn't exactly the strongest movement, but we could bring it out of here and say, you know what, let's say it hasn't even broke out yet. So I would want to do something like this, or maybe even pull it from this area right here to really get that wedge pattern in there. We could draw a line. I know it broke down for a couple days and then back up in the channel, or in the falling wedge, whatever pattern we want to call this. One thing I know for sure, though, is that there's enough consolidation in here to when we do see a breakout, this kind of consolidation, a breakout, we will know it's going, we will know about it when it comes. We can easily just set alert around $30. And I think at the next point, if this thing can get above $30 on at least for starters, an hourly basis, hopefully a daily close basis, then I would expect much bigger moves out of this pattern. Until then, I don't necessarily like to trade it. You could technically buy it at support, which is probably what traders did today, and it's on heavier than normal volume. Maybe we'll have a gap higher in the morning. If we do, I'm not one to chase a gap. I would rather just take out the resistance around 30 bucks, back test, and then get a resumption in here to start seeing higher prices. If we do see higher prices, I would suspect that there would be resistance around $31.68, and then up here around $36.28. And for those of you guys who want to skip through these analysis on these charts, look underneath the video and you can click on the timestamp, and it'll bring you to the chart that you want to see. So thank you for posting this, ABCL. We'll move on to the next one, which is PTON. Now, there are a lot of names that kind of look like this chart, where you see a massive run up and then maybe the reopening trade kind of affected this one, Peloton. I do like bounce trades, but there's only so many bounces that I will trade. Personally like waiting for the actual run up here and then taking the first bounce trade out of it. Once it comes down and bounces on support, because there was so much time in here, there was enough time in this area right here to where it was worth it to take that bounce trade. Now we're beginning the point where the more bounces that we see on this support, the more likely it is support is not going to hold. Although with that said, I also think that there's enough time in this area right here to where I do think that there is at least going to be intraday support, which is what we saw today. We saw intraday support. I don't necessarily like the look of this chart though, even though we are at support. I don't know if this is something that I would want to personally trade. Let's go down to an hourly time frame and see if there is something else on the hourly that we can't exactly see on the daily chart. And so for the hourly, on the hourly, I can kind of say the same thing. Maybe there was a trend line in here, and we could draw one in here. Same kind of falling wedge. We could even say that there was one right here, although now we're getting a little bit speculative on the number of trend lines. Which one do we want to use? And that behooves us. So for this, something like this, I would want to see a clear resistance break. And so what I'd be looking for something like PTON is I want to see PTON trading for starters back above $100. And then I'd be more interested in it. On the hourly time frame, it's below all three moving averages. It looked like it clipped a 20 for a brief period here, but we could just say it's dang near below all three moving averages on the hourly time frame. To me, that's not bullish behavior, that's more bearish behavior. Another thing is it's below all three moving averages on the daily chart, another bearish sign, not a bullish sign. So just be very careful when trading this. However, we do have a drawdown from the highs to the lows, about 46% drawdown. So I do think that there's room for this to run if it does pick up some legs here. So it's okay to go ahead and wait for the signs to show up, wait for it to become bullish, and then jump on board. We don't need to be the first ones to the party. Let's look at TSLA, which is the next one. Tesla, for those of you guys who've been following me for a while, and for those of you guys who have unfollowed me for this analysis on Tesla, I just want to say I really hope everybody makes some money on Tesla, both directions. Two things that I noticed. One, we do have an uptrending. It's bouncing on support, and we close probably around trend. And we could just draw something around here on 762. For those of you guys who are around who saw me taking these trades both directions, you'll know that coming into the 762 area, I was calling for this to be a heavy enough resistance to where we could put on some short trades. And I do think that ultimately Tesla is going to be, you guys are not going to like this. I do ultimately think Tesla will be back down around $450. And I'm not saying that that's over. What I mean is, I think that this whole pattern is a bearish consolidation. I think we'll break to the downside 450 and then up to $1,000+. The only thing is, this is where it becomes tricky. Well, first of all, I don't know if that's really going to happen or not. It's very, I'm speculating here. For basic, how do we say, market symmetry, let's say. This is pretty good market symmetry, right? But anyway, I don't necessarily know if it's going to go to 450. I don't know if it's going to go to $1,000. What I do know, though, is this consolidation pattern in here is bearish until it's not. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, if it gets above 762, it will become bullish. Enough so to where we could actually wait for the break of 762 around there. It's probably around 750, to be honest with you. There's been enough consolidation in here to where if we do wait for the actual breakout or breakdown, it is worth the trade. So we don't need to get ahead of this thing. We can let it choose the direction. There's another thing I saw in here. I was following a guy on Zip Trader, and I noticed that he had something a little bit different in here for his analysis. And I do appreciate the analysis of other people. I do appreciate this one, and I didn't really see it before, but there is a channel in here. And so technically speaking, this is bullish consolidation from an up move. So normally, under normal circumstances, on the hourly time frame, it looks like we can have another move higher. So there's both of those analyses, both of those analysis works. And so I don't know how to say the plural version. Put it under the description of the video. Both of those would work out. Just keep in mind, we are below all three moving averages on the hourly time frame. And then back to the daily, we are below two of the moving averages, the 20 and the 15. We're above the 200. So I'm favoring more downside, but we could still get a bounce up in here and then maybe up to 740 and then for it to roll over. But again, we don't need to make any trade. We could just let it do its thing. Let it consolidate. Let it tell us which direction it's going to go. Next one, Apple. And Apple, last time we took the Apple long trade, one of the last times was down here. There was a falling wedge pattern. We love these patterns because we can just wait for them to play out, let them choose a direction, and then attack. And so for Apple, I think we actually front ran that one a little bit. It was kind of an art form. And then anyway, taking the breakout back there. The thing with Apple is like it's part of the tech sector, the big names that we know. And I don't even know what the news was today that came out that the market did not like. I don't think it really even, well, maybe it matters to some people, but for me, I think the market's going to do what it's going to do. We see some highs in here. Apple's having a really hard time getting above this area. And so we saw right here where we had the gap higher on earnings. That was kind of a telltale sign. And I don't mean that to be condescending or you know, throw it in anyone's face. I just mean just looking at this, an earnings play, it should have broke out here. And what we call this is a fail breakout, which is probably why we have this snapback down to current prices. I don't know where Apple's going to stop. That's the thing. This looks pretty bearish to me. It's on heavier than normal volume. These several days in here looks like distribution to me. So I think we could still have a little bit of room to come down here. I do know that there's a trend line coming up at this angle right here. So let's say there's a little bit of support around 125. There could possibly be support of the prior breakout right below 125. Let's say it's down here around 123.35, somewhere in that area. But then again, with that in mind, guys, just remember this: intra-week and intra-day, this could always have been support today. We could always go up and run a test of the high of the last breakdown area. And so for me, that high, which I think would be shortable if we did get there, I think you could put on a short trade, probably around 131.23, and then average it up to 131.42, knowing full well that if we get above into that gap, especially above 132.08, above that price, I think you can easily be stopped out of the trade. But right now, these last few days do not look bullish to me. And so if anything, maybe to be safe, we could just go neutral on Apple. NIO. For those of you guys who are in the Discord, you will know, and I really apologize. You guys, for those of you who are in the Discord, you'll know that I put on a short trade a couple days ago, and I even put out a chart explaining why I took the short trade. We do like these momentum plays up into the areas of resistance. I like to have price action shoot in my direction or in the opposite direction that I'm going to trade it first. I'll explain that in a minute. Let's go down to the hourly time frame. I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. We've talked about it before on and off, but I really want to kind of dive down in there. You guys notice this huge green candle right here, this breakup candle or the breakout candle, whatever we want to call this. This was a monster candle and it was on heavier than normal volume. So I like, for the fact that the market was selling off pretty heavy, when it shoots up to this area, I'm looking at this as a high, a lower high. I'm scouting another lower high. And so for me, this area was a short entry. It wasn't a long entry. And I know a lot of people took this to the long side. We just have to be mindful of where the chart is coming from. It just ran from $37 up to $41. I could have been wrong. This could have been bullish consolidation. In fact, it was bullish consolidation in this price area here, especially from this up move. But it actually broke down. And since the breaking down through support of the bull flag, we can begin immediately targeting the downside of the bull flag candle. And so that's what we did. And then today we took we closed the position. So that's just, I wanted to be a little bit more transparent on why it was. What did I see out of this trade? Even though I did post a chart about it, I could have been wrong. I'm looking at this as lower high scenarios, and I'm still looking for another lower high. I think originally I said I could picture NIO coming back down here between $35, $37. But we've already come down and tested it today. Maybe today was a low. I don't really know. It's hard to give analysis on this point of the chart. If I go back to the daily time frame and I look at it, what is it really doing? Well, we had this massive run, and I'm not even going to the low here, but let's just say since last July to the highs was 954%, right? Or 950, let's just say 1,000%. NIO ran 1,000%. Did it have 1,000% in revenue? You know, we have to ask ourselves these, and I don't mean to sound bearish on NIO. What I mean is we have to let the chart consolidate, let some more good news come out. This is phenomenal looking chart. There's nothing bearish necessarily about this price action that we see on this down move in here. It's just profit taking, right? Let the chart consolidate, let it do its thing, and then eventually it'll break out to higher highs and higher lows. Until then, we can kind of just follow along. Maybe today's low was the buy entry. Maybe today we could have went long. Let's let it set up for the next long trade and not try to force it. INTC. I'm glad somebody sent me this one. I've traded INTC on and off again. The only thing I don't like is I don't like the gaps, and the way I found to resolve the issue with taking trades, I'm a swing trader for the most part. And so for me, what I did is I decided to start trading less shares, and so that will limit your risk a little bit more if you're not used to trading some of these names, especially when they gap around like this. I know that INTC, HSBC is the same way, where it just gaps all over the place. It's like, how do you trade that? I do like today's price action. I as far as it being a reversal candle, I believe that this is a reversal candle, and it is technically at some sort of prior consolidation area. And I'll put this on I'll highlight it a little bit. There's a little bit of consolidation area back here, not a lot, not a ton, but there's still a little bit. And so for me, just based on this candle alone, prior consolidation, heavier to the normal volume, I would say that $56 is an area that you can be long against. And what I mean by that is that you can be long at any point in time, having a stop loss just below 56. Let's call it, I'll give you an actual price of the stop. Bear with me, 55.81. So let's say stop is around 55.60. Let's just, you can give it a little bit more room if you want. I think that we could see a little bit of a dead cat bounce in here, or some higher prices, enough to be worth a trade. Another thing that we can see, if I zoom in here just a little bit more so you guys can really kind of see this candle, if I can do that. Another thing that is possible is that we retrace back down this candle, and which would give us honestly a better entry. I think that is definitely an area you can be long against. And I think that there's been enough of a sell-off to where we could see quite the bounce out of here, maybe up to $58 for starters, and then maybe up here to $58.50, and then especially up here around $60. I do expect, or would think, that there would be some heavier than normal resistance around $60. Last one, PLTR. I would kind of put this one in the category of, what's the other one that we looked at? Was it PTON? I don't know. Okay, last one. Let's get through this. PLTR. I don't like the bounces at support. You know what this kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of, which this one has kind of been dead to me lately, is RKT. I love RKT. I think it's easily a $30 stock. It's weird to me that it's trading at what it's at. So PLTR, I don't know a lot about this company, but to me, where the chart has come from, just like NIO, we saw this massive run up from near the lows up to a high of almost 400% in a matter of months. So I would expect there to be a lot more consolidation in this one. And think of it like this. There's going to be consolidation in some of these names. The longer the better for institutions, because we'll forget about them. So like, think of NIO, right? NIO has had such a monster run. It's going to wear traders out, sticking around. It's a patience kind of a game now. In the beginning, it was a momentum game. Now it's a patience game. Eventually, if you're long on these names, eventually you're going to make money. But how long can you be patient for is really what it comes down to. The same thing with PLTR. I don't even know what they do. But the point is, as far as the chart goes, it's a patience game. I don't like the bounces at support. I don't think that this is bullish. I don't think coming down like a bouncing ball into support so many times is bullish. I think one of these times that bouncing ball is going to fall through. Now, as far as a trade setup, we don't need to be long, right? The chart is giving us a perfect setup where we don't, it's the lowest risk, highest probability trade setup the chart is providing for us. We don't need to go long yet. We can just let it do its thing. Wait for it to break out, wait for it to break down. There's been enough consolidation in here. What is this? Since the beginning of February. In fact, we could probably say that this whole thing is consolidation. But let's just go off of this. Let's go off this. This is consolidation. We can wait for a breakout above 23.80 to go long, or we can wait for a breakdown below 21. Let's just say below. I don't even know if I'd want to short this one. I'd have to do it in real time, but let's just say below $20.39. It could create it, but I think the higher probability setup is taking a long trade if the long trade presents itself above $23.80. We don't need to front run it. We can let it give us the action, and once it does, I think that way higher prices are likely. I think we could get up to, for starters, $26, $27.39, $30.26. Maybe there a gap fill in here. And then I don't want to give upside targets from that. But so that's where we left off. If you guys have gained value out of this, feel free to hit the like button. We go live every Sunday. We try to go live every Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we will see you guys in the next video.